Welcome to the Dominate Your Niche podcast with me, Ruth Ferreira. Here we chat to some of today's best small business leaders, individuals who are shaking up their industry and dominating their niche. The show tackles all things business growth, from strategy, marketing and branding, and delves into the secrets of what it takes to dominate your niche. The aim of this podcast is to empower founders with big dreams, small and micro businesses, and even solopreneurs who are looking to make a big impact. People who are hungry to learn from those who have gone before them and implement that knowledge to next level in their own business. So welcome, lean in, and then go take action to propel yourself towards dominating your niche in your small business. Welcome to the latest episode of the Dominate Your Niche podcast with me, Ruth Ferreira. Today, I'm delighted to introduce you to Royston, the founder of Chasing Threads, a super niche cross-stitch travel accessories brand. Has taken her brand from startup, designing the prototypes herself, right through to growing an impressive business, which is now stocked in household name retailers, including Liberties and Barnes & Noble. Key themes that came out in our podcast: how to get started in a product-based business, making the jump to play with the big boys and the things that you need to consider, staying consistent, the ups and downs of running a small business, the logistics of taking your product to market, and celebrating how far you've come. An absolutely gorgeous episode with somebody I personally know and love. I can't wait for you to listen. Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Be here.
Amazing. So, you have one of the nichiest niches that I have ever come across in my business coaching or any of my business contacts, anywhere I've networked, and you have a very successful business. So what I would love is for you to tell our audience a bit about your business, but actually tell us mainly about your main product.
Glad that you think it's the nichiest of the niches. I love that. So I make alternative embroidery kits and travel accessories. And what does that mean? So the bestseller basically is a passport cover. It's got a map of the world on it and it's perforated so you can stitch where you've been. So it comes with needle and thread and you add little crosses when you visit somewhere. And so you can personalize it with your own travels.
I love that. And I remember the first time I met you years ago, and you were telling me about this. And now, obviously, I travel quite a lot, but I'm very light. And the idea of having a passport cover, I'm like, no, that's going to add bulk to my passport. Can't be doing with that. I'm like a hand luggage only backpacker a lot of the time. And I just remember thinking, how is this a business? And actually, it is an amazing business, isn't it? Like you've got a product that's actually stocked in a lot of the big household names.
Because when I think I first told, about the idea, he was like, no one uses passport covers, no one uses them. And I nearly didn't actually launch with that product. I was going to do like a luggage tag thing or something different. But I stuck to my guns because I just thought, people sell a lot of these, so someone's going to be buying them, and I think particularly as gifts. So whether you yourself find it frustrating, but I think a lot of people do want to keep their passports safe. And it's just also for people that travel a lot, like that kind of bucket list idea. There's like the scratch map. So this is kind of
I've got, at least 2 scratch maps.
Do you? Yeah, exactly. So this is kind of like a craft alternative. And I think the lovely thing about it is like, you could have only visited one place when you first get it, but the more you use your passport, the more you're traveling, the more you use the actual product, you're kind of interacting with it more. So and it tells your own story, which is what I guess resonates with lots of people, because we have sold thousands of them at this point. So
I love that, like multiple thousands of them, not just like
probably,
1,000 of them.
Yes, many thousands,
many thousands. I love it. Don't be modest on here, by the way. So, what I'd love to know is about your business journey. So, obviously, you started up, you told your husband about this idea, and he was like, "What?" But you went for it, you found a supplier. Talk me through kind of that early stage, and then give me a snapshot of how where have you got to now?
Always wanted to have a company. I studied design and I don't know what it was, but I just had that desire to have my own brand. And I think working for other small companies, I was just like, I can do this better. I just felt like, it was that kind of frustration, often working for kind of male bosses and people at trade shows being like, where's your boss? Go find him. And you'd just be like, you don't know, I can do this better. I just had that, kind of urge to
Yeah,
have my
and
own brand.
you have done.
And now I do, yes.
Yeah.
But that the opportunity really was an opportunity in Hong Kong to move to Hong Kong with my husband's job, and I said yes, let's do this. But kind of, for me, I'm gonna do part-time work out there, and then this is going to be the opportunity to start my own company. And it was the perfect place because obviously Hong Kong is on doorstep of China and production and
Perfect.
manufacturing. Yeah, and I mean, at first when he told me the idea, I was like, no way. I don't fancy that at all. It had never been somewhere I'd considered. But it was the best decision that we made. And I actually loved living there. For 5 years we were there. And
I
it
love
was,
it.
yeah,
And
the ideal place.
so what was the first step? So when you've got this idea, did you build a prototype? Did you literally start touring factories? Like I would not know. I'm a business coach and I would not actually know what the first step is in that.
Yeah, because I'm quite like hands-on and creative. So I was like prototype first. I also did like
Yeah.
a leather working class, which I don't know, I can't actually remember now which one led to the other idea. I think maybe the leather working class sort of inspired the idea slightly as well as all
Okay.
the traveling that we were doing in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so yeah, a prototype that I physically made first of all, and I was
Okay.
like, this is actually really quite. There's something in this. It was
Yeah.
a
Oh, I'm
bit rough
glad
and
it looked
ready.
good because if I'd have made
Yeah,
something, people have been like, "What is this rubbish?"
yeah.
Like, I don't think anyone's going to buy that. So I like that the prototype was inspiring. That's a good start.
Idea I think I had was to use cross stitch fabric, which I don't know if you've seen it, but it's not an attractive fabric,
Mm,
and that was ugly. So yeah, I think when I later on was like leather would work really well, and it's not a traditional thing to stitch on by any means. So and
yeah.
yeah, I think that led to some of the uniqueness, the nicheness of the product is because I was doing that leather work. Yeah. So anyway, that was and then from there I had a prototype, and then I started contacting factories. And I
Hmm.
had a little bit of experience of that from my previous company.
Okay. So
Um,
you had worked in this sector before, working for somebody else.
yes,
So you took those skills, you had this idea, and you're like, let's just do this. It's an opportunity.
I was really lucky in a sense when I started in my last company. It was actually in a sales role. I just needed a job, and it was a cool brand, but it was in sales, and I felt like this is an absolute kind of I don't know. I felt like I'm never going to be a designer. This is just a real step away from what I want to do. And I felt really down about it for a while. But actually, that was probably the best thing because I learned so much then about the sales side of the business
Mm.
and
And it
how
set you up
wholesale,
perfectly for this. And actually,
exactly.
just for anyone listening who is had something happen in their life that they are, like maybe a sideways move or something they're not delighted about, you just never know how that's going to fit with your bigger story. So if there's anyone listening to this who's just not in a great place with something, you just never know. So be expectant and be hopeful.
I think I wouldn't have believed it at the time, but yeah, I think that was genuinely one of the best things. I wouldn't have had a clue then about what you should be charging for products. I wouldn't have known margin expectations for in the gift industry, but because I had that accidental experience for a couple
Mm.
of years, yeah, it worked out very well.
Perfect. Congratulations. Okay, so you went to all of the different factories and you chose one, or like what were your criteria?
Became quite obvious. Um, you get samples done. Some of them were fine, some of them were awful, some of them the price was just like they were using the most deluxe leather, and it was like that's not the kind of product that I'm targeting, and
Hmm.
that's not the kind of like retail price that I could ever, you know, make work. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think it was just whittling down a few conversations back and forth. And then visiting, because I was in Hong Kong, I was able to then go to
perfect.
Shenzhen, and yeah, they were close, so that was good. And
Amazing.
I still work with that supplier, so actually I only really have, I don't have the one, but there's one main supplier that I now use for everything, and that's such an invaluable relationship because I trust them very
Yes,
much. Because
I
I used
love
to go and
that.
check every single product. I used to go and you know check quality control before they were sent out. So
Good girl. That's amazing. Are you ready to grow your business this year? Join me for Supercharge Your Month, a 60-minute clarity and strategy workshop to reflect, plan, and get super strategic to make your growth dreams a reality. The first Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m. for just £97, or free if it's your first time. My gift to you. Book on now via the show notes. See you there. So, you've got your first products ready. How did you take this to market?
uh, I just made myself a website,
Okay,
taught,
good.
taught
That's a
myself
good
how to
first
do
step.
that. Yeah, yeah, good first step. I listed on Etsy, I listed on Not in the High Street, anywhere like that that was like a marketplace.
Yeah,
And then I booked a stand at a trade show in London, Top Drawer,
love it.
which was quite terrifying at the
Yeah, I
time
can
because
imagine. So when was
and
this?
you
Really early days.
been 2018. Um, yeah, so fairly early days.
Hmm.
I built a bit of a range by then, and yeah, I was also doing ceramic stuff as well as this travel accessories, and I went with the whole collection, and it was clear quite early on that the passport cover and the luggage tag kind of range was like, yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's the
one.
one that's going to sell.
Yeah,
And that's really valuable feedback, actually, because there's a lot of people who they have like a product that they love, but it's not the seller. And if it's not the seller, you might be in the wrong place, but it might also just be time to quit and put your energy into something that is selling.
and you can have, I think, in a range a mix of things, but you need that like star. You need that star product that's going to just be your bread and butter. That you know that is like what everything else is kind of built around. And I'd say now I have other ranges that, yeah, there are other kind of star sellers, but yeah, but the passport cover still, it's the classic. It kind of sums up, yeah, so as you go.
Amazing. Okay. So you've been to your first trade show, you've got sales coming through your website. I'm guessing you're on social media. What were the key strategies that you used to grow? Like how, because now you're stocked, and I really wish I'd looked this up 5 minutes ago, but from memory, you aren't, tell me if I'm wrong, you're stocked in Oliver Bonus, you're stocked in Barnes and Noble in the States, you're stocked in TJ Maxx. I feel like I'm on a roll here and I'm missing so
Well,
many
amazing.
companies in Selfridges.
Um, well, I'm talking to Selfridges, but
Woo!
I'm hoping, but
You're
I'm
in
in Liv.
Liberties, aren't you?
Yeah.
I can't believe you're in Liberties and I said Selfridges. Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
No, it's on my target list.
Oh, I
Maybe
love it. I'll
you'll
help
help
you
me
visualize it.
manifesting. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Selfridges, are you listening?
Yeah.
I have no influence over them, sadly. But you never
Maybe you do,
know
you
if
don't know.
anyone can make
Yeah.
the intro. Yeah, feel
That'd be
free to hook
amazing.
him
Yeah.
up. Okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, how did you get to that stage? Because that is a very different stage in business to having your first trade show. Like, what was the journey and what were the strategies that got you there?
A lot of it was plugging away, and especially when you have kind of one seller, it's like as a business owner, it gets kind of, as a designer, it gets boring because you're just kind of constantly talking about this product. But I think it's kind of important that you do just keep introducing it to different companies, making cool videos. Social media obviously is um, a big driver for customers. Pinterest, all of those kind of things, visual marketing,
Yeah.
and then slowly building a client list, and maybe borrowing some of old clients that I used to know from my previous jobs
Love so
helped.
using your connections.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And trade shows, really just growing that, um, the retail kind of database. And I think it has been a lot of plugging away. I think it's 6, 7 years. I never know how long I've been in business, but I think you don't necessarily notice at the time, but things grow. And yeah, like you say, now working with Barnes and Noble, which is one of the biggest retailers in the world. It,
Congratulations. Should we just take a moment to reflect on that? That's amazing. How does that
thanks. No,
feel?
it is. Yeah, great, really exciting. And like with all of these bigger guys, it's like the just once you've actually made the first deliveries work and you know that you haven't messed anything up is
Hmm.
because as a solo entrepreneur, it's kind of terrifying that you're working with like this massive machine
Yes.
and trying
And
to figure out all the logistics and the labeling requirements and
my
it's
goodness. And
a
actually
lot.
something there's a bit of a story, and you've given me permission to ask you about this because I know
Absolutely.
right as you started working with your first, I'm going to call them like the big players, just to that, lump them all in together because they have slightly different payment terms to a lot of your previous, I don't know what you can call them, the the sorry, broke up there.
Sorry, retailers, yeah, B2B
Retailers.
customers. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, their payment terms are a bit longer. So you deliver, they then, is it 90 days until they pay you?
Yeah, it's brutal. So yeah, you're manufacturing stock like probably 90 days before that.
Hmm.
And then so
And you're
a
paying at
massive
that
gap.
point.
Yes, well I pay yes, exactly. I pay like 30% deposit and then like the balance on it leaving their warehouse. So yes, that leaves me with a massive gap basically. Um of probably at least 100, 120 days or so.
Wow.
So yeah, I think
So that's
that's
that's a
that's
long time. And I'm just trying to think, what is 120 days? That's 4 months.
those big orders, it's like a real double-edged sword of like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. You want how many
Mm,
thousand? But then just being like, okay. And I think we got our first orders at a really like kind of busy time of year that wasn't necessarily, it was like pre-Christmas, so it wasn't like a cash rich time of year.
yeah.
Um,
The
and it
timing
was
was terrible for you, wasn't it? Because
it was,
I
yeah.
was there
Yeah.
on the day and I remember,
Yeah. We went on some good walks that day, didn't
yeah.
we?
Um, and it's a stressful thing because, and I think a lot of small businesses have this where they're like, oh my goodness, I've hit the big time, this is incredible, and then they see the payment terms and they're like, oh my god, is my business going to survive this? Because you've got to have the cash flow that can allow you to get through that first, well, not always just the first, but it can allow you to get to being paid. And actually, there are some businesses that could go bankrupt in that time. So, firstly, congratulations. You are still here. You're playing successfully with the big boys.
Thank
Um,
you.
but what I'd love to say to anyone who's listening is firstly, if you've got this opportunity, congrats. If you've got an opportunity to shift up to some of the bigger players in your industry, but really be conscious of cash flow. And if you can see that you're going to have a gap, there are people who specialize in short-term financing. So there's people whose entire businesses are set up to help out people for where you're at. So, I mean, I don't think it's a cheap thing to do. I've never had to do it myself, but I have some good contacts in the industry. So if anyone is in that situation or concerned they might be in the future, give me a shout and I can connect you because what I would hate to see is that anyone basically going bust while they're waiting to be paid from an amazing opportunity. So yeah.
Having to turn it down, exactly. No, I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely right. And we talked about that, and I think it was really nice to hear, yeah, you had some suggestions and feeling like, okay, there are a few options. Yeah, absolutely. And then in the end I was, lucky that I could get that kind of short-term loan from family
Yeah,
and
which
eke
is
that through and be
always
like,
it's always a good option. It's
don't
lovely
have
that
to get
people,
banks involved. It can be, very fortunate. But yeah, 100%. If it was a bigger order, it wouldn't have been an option either. So I would have had to look at other options, and I may well still in the future. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
the thing with
Ooh,
those
well,
big players.
and that leads me to ask, what's on your vision board for the future? Can I ask? On a very public podcast?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're talking to the big guys. We are talking to I don't know if you've heard of them, FabFitFun. They're an American gift box subscription company.
Wow,
Quite niche
congrats.
again.
Yeah.
And they kind of have millions of, so they're the kind of people that have conversations like, can you quote me for 50,000, 1 million? And you're like, ah, sure, yeah.
Yeah, sure. And
Do you
when
know
you're
I'm just one woman? And, no, I mean,
one woman, you've got a small team behind you, haven't you?
so
You've got a bit
yeah,
of
and the
support.
kind of the infrastructure with suppliers, and we have a warehouse and
Yeah.
everything, obviously. So there
But
is
you
more,
are
but
a
yeah,
small business doing big things. I love that.
yeah.
And listen, when they are like, can you quote me for 1 million? What is the thought process that's really what's happening in your head at that point?
Or a bit of like, I mean, it's excitement for sure, though. It's like that's a kind of a company that could transform your business just
Yes.
like with one order, really.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we have worked with them before in a smaller context, but yeah, still, I think you've got to be a little bit sensible, especially with new tariffs and things with, I don't know, American Trump changes and stuff. So
Oh
you've got to just be
gosh,
a
brace
bit
yourself.
careful. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
no politics in the podcast, by the way.
No, absolutely not. Make no
Let's steer
comment.
clear of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
And
yeah, just a bit, yeah, cautious, but also exciting.
love it. So listen, for you, the big opportunities are these big retailers, but you're also very conscious to maintain your social media presence and the individual orders. Can you talk me through the strategy behind that and how do you balance that?
I think, yeah, really good question because I think it's really important to be like a really appealing business to consumer kind of brand. Like, I think that's really important to have like a really lovely website and a kind of interesting. I try to make like quirky videos and social media and have really lovely photo shoots, and a brand that has quite a lot of like uniqueness about it. Um, and I think it's important to to keep kind of business to consumer sales. They're a big part of the business as well, even though probably the focus is more retail. But
Hmm.
I think retailers want to buy into brands that have that direct consumer relationship as well.
Hmm.
So,
So yeah, it's a balance, isn't it?
yeah, definitely. And it's a massive juggle. It's always really hard to know where to spend your time because you don't want to be spending hours creating Instagram content if what's really going to transform things is spending more time on the retailers. But yeah, I think it's important to maintain both for sure.
Love it. And can I ask about the logistics of packing those small individual orders? Because you've not got loads of boxes around you. I mean, you probably do, but I can't see them. But you're not doing that.
No, no, no. No. So since quite early on, I got a warehouse for fulfillment. So
So
yeah,
hang on. For our listeners who are like, fulfill what?
yeah.
Talk us through what that is.
Yeah, sure. So I've got a lovely warehouse up north in Keighley, and they deal with my distribution. So if I get an order on my website, it automatically is sent to them, and they pick and pack and send. So they do both my wholesale and my direct consumer orders.
Oh,
Um,
they do both. I didn't
so
realize
yeah, they
that.
do
That's
both.
handy. So
Yeah,
all your stock's
yeah.
in one place.
Yes, so all my stock's in the UK warehouse. Yes, because I wouldn't want to be packing every day. There would just be no time left for anything else. So yeah, they're great, and it just means, I mean, in an effect, if it's just web sales, I don't have to touch anything, and that just happens. So that's nice.
Love
And
it.
until things go wrong, obviously. But yeah, it's
Amazing. And it's quite an affordable way of doing it, isn't it?
definitely I think there's some minimums to hit, but yeah, it's a definitely affordable. Yeah, can if you're someone that's kind of making products and sending them out, if you can stockpile and get someone else to be sending them, it just frees up so much more of your brain and time
Yes.
to
Yes.
do.
Nothing more time consuming than writing address labels and going to the post office. Who's got time?
No, Absolutely.
Love it. So, a wider question for you. What has been your biggest learning along the way?
Tricky one. Yeah, my biggest learning. I mean, I've had so many, but I think probably from one of the worst experiences I had at the beginning was when I got my first, well, one, not my first, but one of my first deliveries of stock. And I checked through and the quality was just awful. This was a supply that I don't
Oh
use anymore.
no. Oh my
And
goodness.
because previously I had been checking everything, this was a different supplier. I kind of got a bit like a bit lax with it, I
Yeah, a
suppose.
bit complacent maybe.
A bit complacent, exactly. And yeah, I just kind of assumed it would be fine. And like a few of them I didn't catch until they'd gone to the final consumer, and just that kind of dread of that discovery, and the
Yeah.
fact that the whole order was basically like it was just dead stock that I couldn't do anything with or salvage,
Oh my
and just that kind
goodness.
of like kicking myself that I should
And
have
that's
checked
so,
it.
so painful at the time because that would have been early
So
days in your
painful.
business.
Yeah,
It's a big
exactly.
cash hit as well.
Exactly. You've wasted the time. You feel
Yeah.
stupid
And
and
that
like
customer relationships damaged as
yeah,
well.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, all of those things. I think that was a really hard lesson.
But valuable.
And
It's always valuable.
yeah, no, exactly. You're right. And yeah, now I just really vet my supply. My supply knows now that because I've been checking every single one personally.
Yeah.
um,
You will never try and slip something through
yeah.
subpar.
But yeah, things happen as well. And I think, yeah, you have to sort of also remember to keep distance from it a bit and not take it all too personally because I am quite
Yes.
a sensitive person. So I think like
Yeah.
learning to get a bit of distance from, especially with, when you're sending out products, there's going to be complaints. And
Mm,
I now have my virtual assistant who deals with that. And
love it. Love
that
it.
just creates a little bit of distance. So
Okay. So yeah, so how do you create that? So you've got your virtual assistant standing in between you and the complaints process, if you have one. I'm sure you barely get any. I've seen your products, they're amazing.
thank you.
How else do you protect yourself? Because the highs and lows of running a business, do you have any advice for our listeners?
I think it's still something that I'm learning all the time. And I think talking to people like you, other business owners, um, is it's hard at times and it's very lonely. And I think as much as there's such an amazing freedom in having your own company, it can be like there's no one there being like, giving you a pat on the back, being like, wow, what a great thing you did today. That was,
I do that
so
to you sometimes.
you do, yeah, exactly. And that's, go for walks with Ruth is definitely on my list.
Yeah, yeah. Not all the listeners can do that. Happens to live very close to me.
Yeah, that is very lucky.
Very lucky.
Um, but
Although a
yeah,
lot of the
there's
listeners take this podcast with them. So we will be on a walk, I reckon, with about 50 people at this moment as they are listening. Maybe more, who knows, and as it goes in the future. But yeah, a good chunk of the listeners take us on walks. It's lovely. I don't get
well,
any of the exercise, but like I love the idea.
yeah, definitely. No, go for walks is definitely a real good
Yeah.
one, isn't it? Just when you're like getting in your head and you're just like, you
Yeah.
just need to take
So
five.
actually, when you're going on those walks, there's that community aspect. There's that physically changing your state because a lot of people, when when things happen, we get in our heads, and it can be really useful just to leave the office or the studio, wherever it is you're working, to get out, to get amongst nature, just breathe, get some like movement, like go for a walk, go for a run, physically change your state, change your surroundings. And that can actually really help to recenter you if something bad's happening. And also being around other business owners that you trust, that you can share with as well, can be invaluable.
I think also just remembering how far you've come because I guarantee that you have moved so much further than you kind of realize when it's incremental every day. You don't, we don't celebrate the wins, do we? But
Oh my God, I love that. I love that.
if I think if I'd learnt, 5 years ago that I'd be stocked in Liberty and that they actually found me and came to our brand, and
Gosh,
that would have
yes.
been like, wow, yeah.
Yeah,
So
you could see, and sometimes it's actually just seeing the future potential and being like, I'm gonna lean in, I'm gonna make this, yeah, I'm gonna make this work. Amazing. Okay, so if you could go back to Em in the first year of your business and give her some advice, what would it be?
Stick at it and not listen to. I had some really awful like negatives at the beginning, like you'd have a meeting with someone, they'd be like, well, none of this would sell in any of my stores, and just like kind of unnecessary. And I
Yeah,
guess
being a
it
bit mean.
comes, yeah, and I think, not everyone is going to be your target audience. And like you say, the product is kind of niche in lots of ways. I mean,
Very
it
niche,
is
yeah.
niche, yeah.
It's a
But
cross-stitch passport cover. It is as niche as it gets.
I love it. But at the same time, it's like,
Beautiful one, I should say.
yeah,
Anyone, like, go check them out. If you know anyone that travels
definitely.
or any
Yeah.
stitches, she's got other products that aren't travel related. There's like cocktails, there's gardening. They are stunning. They're not my thing at all. I cannot and I will not cross stitch, but I love that they are beautiful products stocked in hugely well respected locations. So yeah, Chasing Threads must be doing something very well.
Yeah. Yes. No, I'm really proud of Angus. Yeah. There are people out there when they love it, they love it. And that's when you know you're onto something. It's like, oh my God, this is
Mm.
perfect for someone. So yeah.
Yay, I love that. Now, I want to flip that question. If M in year one could see you now, what advice would she give you?
Yeah, I think keep going.
Let's see how far we can take this.
Yeah, let's see how far we can take this. And yeah, I mean, I think she would be quite happy with being got a lovely studio to work in, a family that's, I'm in the countryside, and I don't think it,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily need to look like a huge industry. It's kind of like a lifestyle business as well as being a successful brand. I think yeah, just to appreciate how I'm making it work for me. Um,
I love that. And actually, I hadn't thought to ask you about family, but you have a young daughter. How do you find balancing business and family? Because she's just turned 2, is that right? So you had an established business, you threw a baby in the mix. How the heck has that been?
yeah, I know lots of people sort of start businesses when on maternity, but yeah, for me, I was already kind of in the depths of, I think actually Barnes and Noble was happening around that time. Um,
Yeah, wow.
and so, yeah, there were definitely stressful times, but it's also been kind of an amazing opportunity to then, have that flexibility. Maternity leave can be quite long, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of time as well. So I really used the naps. It was like, right, she's having a nap. I'm going to do,
Yeah. You got lucky with that baby. I gotta say, they
I
don't
did.
all do that.
Yeah, I
I
did. Yeah,
had
I did.
zero naps.
Yeah, that must be painful. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can only imagine you can't rely on any time. Um, but yeah, kept it going. And now with more childcare, it's like that freedom to like, okay, now we can start developing product again.
Yeah.
But I actually did kind of love having that to get me through. It was like there was something else going on. I wasn't
Yeah, I
just in
think
baby
I think
world.
you balanced it well. And that was the time as well, wasn't it? That you expanded your team. So you took on a VA to help with some of I can't even remember what she
Yeah,
was helping with, but you got support. So you looked at everything that's going in the business, you looked at your cash flow and you're like, this is just a logical next step. But it did take that nudge of baby coming into the world to kind of help you make that decision.
yeah, 100%. You're right. And I think you also, yeah, were instrumental in persuading me. Like a bookkeeper was just so necessary,
Yeah.
and yeah, has
Yeah.
also been very useful. That was an introduction from yourself, and that's been
Think I've
brilliant.
introduced you to your entire team, haven't I?
Maybe not my sales, but yeah, otherwise,
No, not your
yes,
sales, not your sales. I don't know that person. I'm sure they're lovely.
she's lovely.
Love it. Shout out to whoever does Emma's sale.
Yeah, thanks, Abby.
Love it. Love it. Listen, this is probably a good time to wrap up. Do you have any words of encouragement for our listeners?
I mean, I'm sure they're already smashing what they're doing. But just if you're in the throes, especially with a product business, especially from a design angle, it's like it is quite rough at the beginning, being like it's a lot less designing day to day than you think, oh, it's lovely, I'm going to spend my time designing, and it's a lot more of the marketing stuff. But it's so worthwhile, because once you've got that marketing running and sales running, then you do have more freedom to create and be creative. So yeah, it does take a lot of consistency, and sometimes it's boring, but it probably is going to be worth it.
Yes. So stick at it, push through the boredom, and see what you can create. I love that. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on here.
It's been so fun.
And I feel like I've learned a lot as well. So thank you for that.
Great.
Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening today. If you like what you hear, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. Even better, come connect with me, Ruth Ferreira, on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'd love to get to know you.